So, welcome back to the Mind Culture podcast. Today we have Georg Blaschke, my favorite Viennese choreographer, who I had the pleasure to work for at some point in my life, and it has changed my life.
Oh,
Definitely my artistic life. And Georg Blaschke is unique because he is an educated philosopher and a mathematician,
uh-huh.
and he transitioned into art, and now he's or did he transition into art? Actually, this is a good question.
Or the other way around.
Or the other way around. So welcome, Georg. It's my biggest pleasure to
Thank
have
you
you.
that you invite me.
So, can I ask you a first question? Like, how
Sure.
you doing? What is there something new on your horizon that you're working on, or you finishing the projects that you've been doing?
More, at the moment, I've said as a rather a whole. So I have a kind of vacuum and emptiness concerning artistic practice, not only because of Corona, but also, and I finished the last production in February. Unfortunately, it's still on stage. And since then, I also for private motives, I had to take a kind of break, and not a physical break, but a break of being involved into some work. But I'm more or less associatively preparing some concept for later.
So when can we see your later work?
But I don't know. It depends on the situation.
How long does it
I
take you
have
to?
now some maybe invitation for autumn for the last production in Germany, but this is also it is a bit complicated, but um, this will be in autumn. But this year I have no new production because no money.
Right. Yeah.
Doesn't matter, but it is
It's
like
like for
this.
all of us.
It's like this. Yeah, yeah. Also, it is not for everybody, but this year is a bit of a break.
Okay. And then you said to me before that you are actively teaching maths. How is it going? Like,
Well, I had to earn the living, and so in the last 2 years, also to be a bit more independent from the constantly changing subsidy market. I had to, also for the reasons of family support, to strengthen a bit another branch of earning the living, and at the day of the lock, so I actually was already involved into teaching for the last 2 years beside the artistic practice. And since the lockdown, I I had to force the shift to digital or e-teaching, and I'm now, let's say, quite experienced into the home office work of teaching mathematics as a kind of, I like to do it really much, and as a kind of support also to be a bit more independent from the economical situation as an artist here.
so I have two friends who are excellent dancers, like amazing dancers, but both of them are studying maths. So one of my friend is already doing PhD, or actually he already did PhD, and now he's yeah, working in this
Mm-hmm.
as a university professor. But he's still an excellent breakdancer, and the other friend is who's also an excellent breakdancer is currently studying a masters in maths. Like, and I'm wondering, what is it in maths that or could you find some parallel to maths and doing arts, or maths and working with the body, or how is it for you? Because it's this.
Well, they are always different. I think people do different jobs in their life and have different gifts, and some people do one or the other or both, or at the same time or one after the other. It happened to me that it was some interest. I studied it, and very early it was a tool to earn money by teaching, and also to support dance classes that I couldn't afford otherwise. When I was training a lot in early ages, I mainly supported that also with my teachings and lessons. And many people asked me that again and again, and for me myself, I have no real concrete, let's say, parallelity or involvement. I was interested maybe always in a way of structural thinking, and choreography and mathematics can have a structural thinking, but it would be actually too simple to say this is a synchronicity or some kind of comparison. I do physical art mainly because I like to move also and to explore the physical body somatically in the arts, and many of I found is a totally different field than the mathematical, how to say, field of thinking. Maybe it's compensating the both of them, and
So one is covering the one aspect and the other is covering the other aspect.
maybe I never did actually a piece that deals with mathematics.
Okay.
Only for fun, I
I
remember.
see.
But at the background, maybe there's an interest of also, yes, this kind of bringing some order into to bring some order into a problem that you want to solve. And choreography for me sometimes is this kind of solving a problem and the interest of solving a problem with some parameters that are given.
Yeah, this is. I think this is a completely other way of, let's say, this kind of problem solving thinking on choreography. It's not something that is very common. I have the feeling like that, because in my mind, traditionally, choreography is something that attracts people who have more liberal spirit, or how to call it, even the writing spirit, or the opposite of science, let's put it like this. Whereas I feel that maths is, like you said, the more structural thinking. And I've always been struggling with this, because myself, I'm also always thinking on the problem solving side, and I love, I've also been doing some maths for passion, but on a high school level, so nothing comparing to what
but-
you do, but
Well, yes,
I always find like there's the different approach in choreography when it's like a problem solving, as opposed to when it's inventing
yeah,
something.
but I think it's very pragmatical for me. Even why I started to move is also to break free of something, and at the end you have to finish the piece to a certain state to bring it to stage. So this problem you have to solve, and this
Yeah.
is also already you have to have some kind of structure, I think, to fill the evening and to finish with all the parameters around. I don't mean it too abstract, I mean it rather practical. And I also think mathematical thinking is more practical than people think. And it is also a kind of, how to say, it's an evolved technique of the brain of humanity somehow. Even Feldenkrais, I remember he quoted that mathematics is like a map of the brain. You don't find it in nature like this. Yeah. So would it be there without the brain? Who knows? And I see it also creatively. I was always interested in a way also in this more than with dance, more with the visual arts. So let's say I was not into the dance as an art form at the beginning, rather into the visual art and music, and there I found rather comparisons and connections, interrelations, and juxtapositions between, for example, geometry, perspective, and visual art development of the figurative and the abstract painting and all these things. This is also part of my next work eventually. And then in my studies at the end of university, I actually made a small analysis of applications of mathematical models to the development of the perspective, the central perspective, and also like projective perspective and abstract painting and ornamental patterns. So these connections I was interested, still I am, but rather with visual arts than with, how to say, because many developments in the arts from the modern dance, like who came up with the system of movement, Laban and others, the Israeli way, what's the name? Noah Eshkol and others. They were very interested also in a kind of, how to say, wie es der damals hat man gesagt, also neomaterialistischen oder materialistic image, how to bring the body into a system of geometries and the movement analysis. I was not interested in that, never really.
Yeah, like your movement language is the contrary in a way.
I mean, I don't know. I'm also not. I'm getting a bit bored by reading these notations.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Like, I was.
But it's not with disrespect. It's just it doesn't interest me in the analysis of a rehearsal process of body in space or somatic qualities to abstrahize movement qualities or movement tendencies with spatial abstract notions of geometry, for example. Doesn't interest me so much.
So when I see your choreography or when I did your choreography, like I never seen you doing like spagat or like
I could.
many
I still
pirouettes. I mean, I'm not talking you as a performer. Probably you do a lot of spagat, but I
Not
mean
anymore.
like your choices as a choreographer that don't lean in the direction of so-called like obvious virtuosery. I would call it like this. The say socially accepted virtuosery in dance, something that is agreed upon, and you go more into detail and let's say other spectrum of the body. And I'm just wondering what brought you to this exploration and like how this quite unique language came up to live.
I don't know if it's unique. And it's a desire, actually. I have no really, but it also changed. No, the influences changed. So, but actually, the body was always the starting point. Most of the time, the body and the need to express something with the body, and with different exterior interest or media or influence or let's say sources, different collaboration versions or also maybe languages appeared out of that. But at the beginning it's always a kind of, I would say, psychophysical or physical, psychological need for moving and expressing the inside out.
So it's like expressionism.
I don't know. I'm not the one who can categorize it too much. I think the expressive dance in Austria, especially, or it was a very interesting period, and it got also somehow lost. We know all about that, more or less. But I don't come from how to say reading books and then start to dance, because I have some theory that I should move.
So you are.
I come from sports originally, and I did different dance techniques, different sport methods. I tried out a lot, and the movement research itself was always my interest, and the movement research alone, but with partners as well. And then it developed to some kind of, it got maybe a bit more crystallized and richer. In the last years, it was also together with the video art history and how to to connect the movement, the moving body and the somatic experience of the movement body with the moving image of the body. So this is also my later interest.
So how can you survive having such a from the body? I mean, survive in the art market that is based on the conceptualization before the exploration. So I have the feeling that whenever like I have to write a concept, I have to know what the piece is going to be before I even start making it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So how? But sometimes you can start work from the body, and I think it's very valid to ask like what the body needs at the moment and how you can evolve concept out of it. At least this is how I've been always educated to work like, because somehow it just feels so natural for like a mover, for a dancer to start investigating inside and then to contextualize it after. But I feel like
Yeah.
ever since I started choreography, I have to reverse all of that
I
process.
think this is also a problem nowadays. No, it also changed, and we are pretty much amongst the directory of the spoken and written word and the categorized and standardized word even more. Because now it gets along with the online applications. Yeah, it's fine enough. Sometimes I move. So unfortunately, it gets even more standardized. How you write conceptually of your work that you don't know yet, and we are living in a non-verbal. So, but on the other hand, I'm also interested in writing, so I like to write concepts, as I'm coming in a way from theory. I studied it. Actually, I moved because I was bored by theory, or I was
But you still appreciate
neurotic
it.
from theory. So in a way, I understand both sides, but we have to, for sure, to get the money and the support, fulfill some standardized categories of application with a non-verbal expressive form. Still, if you are agreeing the non-verbal, and I am very much, since I'm very young, actually, I'm very much addicted, and still I am, to the non-verbal express. I don't know even why. Maybe because I found it always a bit too much talking around me. And since I was at school, I was already very much a bit critical against the spoken theater, also wie sagt bei uns, das Sprechtheater. Yeah? But still, I'm also interested, but still there is some of this non-verbal level. How should you write upon it? No? And but at the other hand, there are some topics. For example, when I appeared to deal with Francis Bacon for 2 years, or with some painters, I was very interested. Hieronymus Bosch. There was a given image from the outside that appealed to me physically. So it was not just to feel some movement in a general way. So it was immediately, in a way, a concrete state of where could it go. So it doesn't mean that it is totally without concept if you start with the body. Yeah. And this is the spagat, how to say, the gap, the bridge we have to do, or I have to do. But I don't think about surviving in this market. I have to do what I can do. And I have actually the feeling people are, and the audience is longing for movement and the analog representation of the arts, again, more and more.
Yeah, I have this feeling like ever since, because I don't know if you heard of it, but there's this like new platform for presentation of simple, short choreographic works in Erbs and Fabrik. It's called Craft Choreography, and I'm curating it. And what I was fearing is that there's not gonna be an audience, but actually there's so much and so easily reachable audience for like physical movement based dance. And I have the feeling that maybe after this whole lockdown there's gonna be some kind of a yo-yo effect, like, or like the opposite, when it's like everyone is fed up so much with the digital media that they suddenly gonna go and watch all the theater possible. This is like my dream scenario at the moment.
Yeah, I wish
What do you
I
think of
wish it
that?
for you. It is in Brick 5, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, maybe. I mean, now I really we are into this. Into this. Is it a trap? We don't know. Maybe it's a liberation. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
I'm actually not so concerned about the art itself. It goes always on. Maybe sometimes it's not even so bad to have a bit of a breath and
Like depression.
and a breath, a breathing. Depression, maybe. Yeah, it depends. Or a flatness, or a elongation of time to start to produce or reproduce yourself again. So I'm not concerned about the forthcoming of the art, but for sure we are all included, or we are involved into an economical, social economical, but also private existential circumstance that might be for everybody different. So we are also, in a way, maybe fighters for ourselves.
So do you think art has a social value or even an
Sure.
economical value for the
Sure.
society?
Sure. We knew now that it's more than what they told us in the television, that in Austria the value is much more than we thought about of the so-called the Umsatz, yes?
Mm-hmm.
The what comes in and what goes out, then it would be from pure, I think, agriculture.
Yeah.
So that's what they found out now. But okay, this is very political, and then we see what's going on with this new knowledge. But generally, yes, I think it's important. But I don't know if I do it for that reasons.
And for what reasons do you do it?
I need to do it.
Need to do it.
Yeah, I would not say I'm doing it because it's important for society.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I don't have these ideologies.
It's fine.
I am not the missionary.
I think it's good to be in a good relationship with yourself and not to try to pretend that you're something else.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm even that always, but at the end, for sure, I'm also doing it only as long as there's a public response. So then I actually do it also for a social environment or a social societät, which might be also a smaller part of, but still there's an exchange, and the expression needs the representation and the vivid presence of the audience, the critics, and the performance, and there's the life of theater. Yeah.
So you're dealing with like the relationship between you on stage or your work on stage and the audience response.
How could I not?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. Like I'm not talking about, it can be different for everyone. I'm sure there are some artists that do it just purely for themselves and more narcissistically.
Mm-hmm.
But actually you could argue what is actually narcissistic or what is not.
So narcissism is not a contradiction to that something comes over, no? Because you might become a projection of shield, we say a projection image for many reasons, for some eyes that are watching you. But for sure I'm interested on the voyeuristic gaze a little bit. Why are people watching me or performers? And what is this lust or this motor, this drive to watch?
Why do people come to watch you then?
Is this yours?
It's not mine, I think.
Yeah.
No problem.
Alles unter Kontrolle.
Yes. Okay, so why do people come to watch you?
Yeah, I don't know. Ask them.
Yeah, well, you must know. You
Ask
must
them.
have an idea why.
Yeah, but that's what I said. I was very doubtful about the last solo. I'm getting also in an age, older. And why should they come to watch some older guy performing? Huh? I'm very,
Yeah, it's a good question.
I'm very doubtful and I'm very critical, and I was also, how to say, I was doubting it. No? And at the end, it turned out it was something was coming over, and it was maybe partly of the idea and how we put it into the scenery, and then also the kind of presence or the maybe a kind of authenticity I performed, and I tried. I like to perform. Then the pleasure of performing comes over, and that is in a way maybe also interesting to document or to put on the table the aging body, and the other reasons are different reasons, which I cannot see. So I would also stop or do something different if there would not be a feedback or some kind of affirmation through the audience. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, but I mean, for sure, like if you have so much experience and such a artistic heritage already at the time, then I mean, I would come to watch anytime.
But thank you, Hygin. But maybe others don't, and do it because exactly of that reason they don't come.
Okay, well,
Because
Yeah,
it's
but-
also boring. But
you just said boring.
yeah, it could be. Yeah. But
Yeah, some people don't watch Blade Runner.
I
2000.
also I'm not in a peer to watch a lot of things, but it has to do also with a private situation and where I live now, and but I have to say the last series of performances which I did in Brut together also with Jan Machacek, I really enjoyed also performing, and I felt then also on stage one of my reasons still is to, for sure, this is this is a moment of exceptional physical and psychological situation performing yourself, but still I'm also interested to explore what it makes with me, and how I'm dealing with the situation and the senses in space. With the experience, also without the it's enriching, even adding a new experience, and I feel always like the first time then. But somehow I can't stop. So,
Yeah, I can relate to that as
but
well.
for sure there is a frame that we put it also in a not, let's say, I'm interested to bring also a topic that could interest, and that could interest also on the market in a way, but I'm not doing it, I'm reflecting the market, but also not. Sorry, because I'm, as you say, it's a difficult situation to work or to get some, let's say, inside motivation, but then you have to
So
apply 2 years before you already start rehearsal.
So you're aware of what's going on at the moment. So let's say if
More or
there's a
less.
certain topic, you can go on board with that topic.
I don't know.
But
Which topic should it be?
I don't know. Tell me. You tell me.
Maybe I don't. But maybe it's not important to be on the
because like I sometimes find it.
Depends what it is.
Because I sometimes feel like there is something screaming from me from inside, and it's not what's popular at the moment. So let's say there is a time for certain ideas, and there is time for other ideas. And if you have this idea at the moment, or especially if this idea is not coherent with a certain kind of point of view on this idea at the moment, then you rather shouldn't do it in dance field in a way. Do you find yourself constricted ever in this way, or?
I find myself very often constricted.
Okay. But
this is sometimes also inside and a self-constraint. I come to kind of somatic expressions. Or it can be also a resource
The constraint.
Yes.
I think it's
But this is also easier to say, no? I had these experiences when I had no money and I made still a solo and was quite successful. And then I have a lot of money and was and you try to do the biggest work and it works good, but still it is maybe a bit too, wie soll ich sagen, too big. So I have no real judgment. It was not always easy.
but
What my way is also, what I want to say is that I always enjoy teaching. So the teaching, this is one thing that would maybe also combine the approach from teacher mathematics or dance, that I don't separate so much between the movement research in a rehearsal or the teaching. And also not with the result for sure. Then later there is a product here, and then there's more research and the process there, and then is a teaching with students, and then there's another guest choreography with students, which is different from mine. But I really honestly enjoyed very much the synthesis, or let's say the dialectical movement between these poles of activities that enriched the vice versa, each selves. It enriched my understanding, it enriched the choreographic understanding, but also it enriched the language and also the result, but then also the movement research. And I did not bother so much. And how to say, if one period this works more, another one period this worked more or less. And that's also why I try to be still also engaged with these different activities. And I'm also very thankful, because sometimes with people who you don't know, like with you at the first beginning, and you do a guest piece, or it's much more challenging to prove, but also to adapt and pass further some ideas or physical somatic languages or concepts that for myself would seem very logic, or from myself, coming from myself in an expressive way. So this was always for me very interesting and important.
So I always find, because my experience in your teaching and in your projects, it's always been very transformative. So I have the feeling that there has not been a teacher that could have such a coherent, I think the correct word is here, coherent movement system as you. So there is a certain
Thank
kind
you.
of, but maybe I just relate
I cannot
to the logical part of it, but
I don't know.
It just feels so so whole as a total. It's just thought through from the beginning to the end, and there is no logical holes in it that I can easily spot. I'm sure there might be, but I have the feeling this is where the mathematical thinking comes into place and fix.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a certain kind of reflective level. But I don't know. No, actually, I'm lacking the teaching. Also, I have no teaching now. Not more. I will give a stage for impulse dance, but also it is. You're right. I'm also interested in developing kind of system, but it is at the moment is also very much interrupted. The development, unfortunately. I'm a bit suffering of that. For different reasons, not only for money or corona. These are maybe like headlines now. But once I miss the practice with myself or people, I'm getting a bit weird and I don't like it actually. And I can develop what you say, thought throughness, only in the space with the people. And actually, when I, for example, did with Sasha Krausnicker many years the Feldenkrais contemporary dance movement. It seems like a system in a way, but it was always a new version for the actual group, you know. And this was fascinating me to. And also when I did the piece with you and the group, I remember, I guess it was a different language, especially for us. And this makes for me choreography actually very precious and worth it. That there is always maybe there's a system, but it's with life and a somatic impetus, a somatic spirit of rediscovery or renewal all the time, and research that it brings out something new and a development in it. So I would not apply the same always again and again. And but now actually when you say that, I'm liking this. Actually.
And because you said that there's always something new with a new person, and that you don't know how this person is gonna react to your language. But I have the feeling that you always work with different people.
Yes, I like it. I mean,
Why is that?
not always.
No, okay.
I mean, now I'm quite long in the scene or in the practice. I have partners for longer times as well. I'm not changing every project. But the project, or let's say project that leads to a result as a piece, it depends from different parameters, no? And now partly I work a lot with Jan, and there's also a audiovisual concept or audiovisual need to express something, and it defines also then the personage, the persona also, for example. And, but I'm also consistent in ways, but I also change partners. That's true. But it has different reasons also, also economical reasons. And that's sometimes I was very thankful also for, I'm also valuing that, worshipping the quality of doing so-called guest choreographies. They have the same importance for me than, let's say, own or self-production. Because sometimes you have the chance to work with also a bigger amount of people that you could not pay or afford under regular circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's actually missing. This is what you actually said with the dance maybe, and they are missing. There's missing a vision of repertoire
Group pieces.
repertoire group pieces in whole of Austria, especially in Vienna. But the market, as you say, changed also. There's no company thinking. It's an authorship thinking.
Yeah, but maybe it will hopefully one day revert, because things always go fluctuating, I have the feeling. And I mean, how long can we do solo? Like, I mean, honestly, like now I'm again forced to do another solo, and it's like,
Yeah, now it's also with the virus distance things. Many people do a solo. I understand. Yeah, it's true. That is a pity. And group work is very interesting, and also repertoire work could be interesting.
yeah, repeating things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what do you think of touring? Like, because when I think of Georg Blaschke, I'm always thinking of like world renowned
Would be nice.
choreographers. I know, but what is this? Like, do you see yourself in festivals around the world, or how is it?
At the moment, the last years, not so much. Maybe also because I got more settled, or maybe it did not also work. I did not come so much out, but I'm not. It would be nice now. Maybe I'm having some Gastspiel with the last pieces. I also tried, but it's not so easy. And then I'm not pushing so much behind it also. Maybe then it's also not so easy to come out of a certain kind of whole here. Aber also let's see what happens. I was in different contexts also a lot around the world, and well, let's see. I'm developing also, but this is also not only conceptual. It's also because of economical reasons. I developed a lot of performances site specifically. So especially for certain plays, they could not have been repeated even. In a way, or very difficult and only a very huge effort of.
Yeah, I find this always very romantic when you do site-specific work that cannot be repeated and therefore is valuable. I understand fully, but then thinking market-wise, it's like,
For sure.
what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Because it's like purely for the
But sometimes
artistic reasons.
Sometimes it had to be like this because there was no theater partner to produce the work. So you have to find other places, and if there's no any other theater in Vienna, you do a site-specific place. This is the true fact, and then you bring up everything yourself, and then and so on.
Yeah, I also
But
develop.
I see it also as for me, still the doing pieces is part of research and was actually missing. And I'm also discussing quite a bit, or I did discuss with curators and colleagues of also younger age, like your generation, that there's missing here, especially eventually in Austria or Vienna, I would even say the affirmation, the dedication also of the authorities to support the movement practice and the research without result practice. So meaning that there should be platforms for movement research themselves, like somatic research themselves, without producing marked conform pieces or authorship pieces. And this is still at the beginning.
Yeah,
because you cannot sell it so in the politics. Also, what should you write? There's no. It's too experimental eventually, but what we do in teaching and in the work and with students is actually this. And
but I have the feeling that if you research more, then you can stand more on your own legs as an artist, as opposed to if you make a project and then the research is short. And the project can be good, but like the general identity of an artist to follow to the next project, I feel this is problematic, because then one thing that worked for this project worked, but there is not enough material for another project. And I feel that the research is some kind of, let's say, grounding factor or grounding practice for becoming original and unique in what you actually are doing. And I have the feeling, I mean, this is just the way I look at the things, there's hardly anything original at the moment, and only people who, and yeah, in Vienna as well, but only people who really put a lot of focus in actually the body, I'm just talking about choreography, only those I can consider truly original, because I see a lot of movement language that is repeating all the time, and personally then I'm not watching it anymore. Only thing I'm watching is the concept great, is the concept not great? But actually I would like to dive into the world of dance, actually, which is movement, which
you are initiating it now.
I hope so.
It's it can only start from people who initiate it again, or I think we cannot wait for a higher authority to give you the permission to it, unfortunately. That's
I feel I'm often like going, I mean, I stopped explaining in my concept about because I used to write my concepts about movement language, but I felt so many times misunderstood that I stopped writing about movement concept at all. Like nowadays I'm only just writing, is there a burning topic of sorts that my piece relates to, or...
When I was, it also changed, but I always have this image of Pina Bausch in this interview when, and this is Pina Bausch, when they ask her, how are you developing the piece? And she just speaks about, yes, we start and then we do, we work and it comes together, and the next day it comes like in circles. So it's totally vague. And she was one of the biggest in a way. And she for sure, she was not in the position to need to justify how she would come to the result. At the other way, I also agree that a system that gives money needs, via the spoken and written word, unfortunately more and more standardized, a kind of information, what we with the non-verbal art are aiming to do. This is the conflict, but I have no answer to this problem. I just can say I also like to write concepts, and then interestingly, if it gets approved, it's sometimes the question when you then finally start to realize it, to start to how close is it to it? That's the question.
Yeah, I have to say that like the writing was always my least favorite activity. Like there is a reason why I did not become like a theater person or a writer of sorts. Like I almost didn't pass my education for that reason. So, but then over time I realized that it actually can be something creative, and also started to enjoy it. But I have to say I do enjoy it, but then if I feel constricted by submitting to a certain political topic that is hot at the moment, and because this is what's get funded, then I feel like I'm not an artist of writing anymore. Like it's I don't know, maybe I'm too
but
unhappy about this, but
I think this is
because I feel that what we do is very dictated by people in charge. So there are people in charge that say, okay, we need at the moment art about this, this, and this. And if you happen to do an art about something else, that's not valid. One moment. Yeah, so what was I was saying about?
You were claiming a bit about this maybe contradiction between writing and yes, actually this non-verbal spirit and drive to express something. Yeah, also for me it's both, and I can understand the conflict in a way. Yeah,
Maybe
I have no answer to it, and it is changing. What is a political, how to say, wie soll man sagen, doctrine at the moment? I don't know if people start now to do COVID-19 pieces, okay, shall they do it? So I don't know. You don't
isolation
care.
Pieces.
Yeah, but I don't not interested maybe. So
physical, psychological sanity pieces.
It can be that it's interesting, but at the other hand, I still am convinced that there's also interest in other layers of our consciousness, or also our somatic and also our visual needs that can be totally out of time.
Do you have an
totally out of time? In each art form, you can do everything out of time. Why should not we also?
Do you have some overarching themes that you prefer in your work? Could you define something that is an overarching theme in your work? Or is it too complicated to say?
I'm for sure very interested. It's from the somatical point of view in the movement development, and the movement development more and more also in a poly and ontogenetic way. That means from let's say from an animal to the upright posture, but also from the baby to the upright posture and vice versa. So in different ways, in really different ways, from the analysis of movement patterns and the skeleton and the joints and how they are connected, to more, let's say, symbolic or the metaphorical ways, like with imagery or projection of pictures, like in the last work. I could say this always concerns me in a bit, even if the outside topic might be something totally different, but I like to try to enrich the persona, the personage, the characters, the physical characters, always with a research upon movement development. And if it might it be, because I did a lot of some kind of actually they were homage, they were like dedications to some artists that I was impressed by from visual arts more. But they were very different in style and imagery, but underneath from myself and the artists involved, there was always a research of the possible movement development from the own personage, as from yourself as Hygin or other performer, but also in a more, let's say, in a archetypical way. What is the body itself? What is the skin itself? What is the hair that covers the skin itself? What is the organs themselves? Where they come from, and so, and how is this research involved then with the outside topic?
Is it acknowledging gender or is genderless?
I don't care about that.
Okay.
This is the audience about. I like the audience to judge that. Because gender is always involved. But skeletons are also in both, or in all three genders.
Skeletons don't discriminate anything.
And I'm trying to. No, I'm not trying. I'm interested, and I feel it myself. How to say it? You see, I need to feel this myself in a way. The interest. What is the bird body, or what is the fish brain underneath? If you express a woman or a man. And the last piece was about the animal body, or in a way the animal male. But what is that? And so and this is not finished yet. I think this exploration, especially with Corona, it might have some new actuality.
Do you think the Corona is changing the way we are, as in our movement patterns as well?
I would say rather if you sit too much in front of the computer. Many people don't even know what a meter is, I guess, as a distance feeling. Maybe they need images like elephants or others, but eventually I'm rather feeling that that we are in a way in a de-evolvement phase, about sitting, but this also before Corona. But now this is really politically, this digitalization is getting so much into the foreground of the really as a political statement that I don't know what is the body about.
Right.
Sooner or later.
I have the feeling that now we have an enemy, because before it was not clear why we are sitting, because we are just sitting because we are sitting, but now we are sitting because there is digitalization, so we can name it, and the moment we can name it, we feel satisfied.
Maybe, yeah. But what it will make with us, I don't know really. I really have no idea yet. It doesn't also inspire me for artwork, not much at the moment, as maybe there will be some influence.
Have there been some political situations that inspired you more than the others? Like have there been like an event, because you have very long career, and have there been like event in like some period of time where you've been relating to certain events that happened that inspired you more than the other times? I'm wondering if you can think in retrospective.
No, never.
Okay. It's always something that it's
rather psychological or archetypical topics, maybe, but subconsciously connected with the spirit of a time. Yeah. Be it literature or film, but literature, film, or sound, or visual art, or the body itself is always political in a way. For me, the physical expression itself is a political statement. Everybody talks about different ideologies of our Wertesystem, but nobody talks about the right of the body, the somatic political correctness. Yeah, nobody talks about that. So the body itself, even behind the gender discussion, could be a political statement for me. But I'm saying this not to make a politics about it, but if somebody would ask me, I would say, yeah, this is also a statement to get concerned about how to get into contact physically, how is your skeleton placed over 2 feet, how do you express the uprightness, how do you get bent, and how, and so on, different layers of how is the body actually in the world.
And do you think there is some constraint on it?
Wow, I feel always myself constrained in a way.
But do you feel constrained by the reality, or do you feel constrained by...
Always, in a way.
Okay.
Always.
Because you have a chair that you have to comply
I
to.
have everyday life, and there's always some constraints, and there's economic life and existential life and the reality, but it's also inspiring at the end. It's inspiring, and now I don't know. I have to wait a bit.
Do you ever refer to something that is beyond the body?
Also.
I mean, when I say beyond the body, I mean some kind of spiritual aspect of things, or does it guide you in a certain way, or?
It did maybe, but not now. But maybe this is also present in a space that is empty. I always love empty and huge spaces, especially for solos. So,
Yeah.
And there is a tendency of the vastness and maybe silence or the vibration of sound in a extension of the body. But I would not say that I'm now reading books about illumination and then I'm making a piece about it.
Yeah. Yeah, space. Oh my God, it's like we live in such a small places. I feel that's like the feeling of space is such a luxury. I have the feeling that there will become a time where people just go and like buy tickets to see space or feel space.
I mean, here where you are here as a guest and my director today, there is the Seestadt, a very new development of the city, creating a lot of spaces. And there is still a lot of space, fortunately, because Vienna is based in a basin which is quite large and wide and open. So this is a daily question here, also creating spaces or creating cabins or vastness, and how does a city deal with that? What you say is a way a gift, but there's a lot of business also behind it. And still we are on the search, and this didn't change in the last 3 decades for me as a performative artist. We're always on the research of spaces for the work that you can afford, but then you also can use and adapt and project your visions and your ideas upon, or just project the emptiness into it.
Yeah. It sounds so alien. If you're not coming from the world of performance or dance, that to exactly what you talk about, like what do you mean by projecting nothing into space? It's like it can sound a little bit foreign, but I feel like it is a sensation that you need to first have in order to comprehend this, I feel. And yeah,
I would like to have one of these gymnastic halls that the school has, the campus. It's tremendous, not a
perfect.
luxury,
Yeah.
but we are not allowed to approach
No.
it. No. It's too complicated. But here they have a lot. The new school has a palace of spaces for the children. Very, very. Also,
Maybe
there
you
is
should
a
be a
luxury.
school
There's-
teacher.
Yeah, rather not.
Great. Okay, so I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I
Did I?
think.
I hope I could
No, I find it really
contribute something to your
interesting.
questions.
Maybe I have one last question, but this is my personal one. I mean, they're all my personal one, but this is most personal. There's something that I'm asking myself, like the masculinity in a way, and the sensuality of, or some kind of, because I come from Poland, and in Poland we are still very, say, the male is very dominant, is the male is very strong, the male is very it's like made of concrete. It's not supposed to fall. And I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on this? Like, because I have the feeling that you always explore what is sorry, one sec. So you always explore what is invisible. You always explore what is not obvious about a body, about a person, and I think a little bit deeper. And I'm wondering, what kind of practices like this can we adapt to the society, or to an everyday person of any kind that they would benefit from? Because I feel that, like, with practicing of dance, I always open up my own reality as a male, this, I'm breaking down this strong layers of myself, and I'm happily doing it all the time, like to this very day, because I feel there's still too much strength in me. But I'm wondering, like, what kind of practices could we, I don't know, what can we learn from dance, and what is your perspective on this topic in general? Because I feel that it's not only my problem, it's everyone.
First of all, I want to express my also thankfulness that you are coming and giving this interview. This is also not something, how to say, selbstverständlich and usual, and that somehow people of other generations appreciate knowledge that has been, not because of mine for sure now, because you talk with me, but generally that there has been also a knowledge gaining in the arts since the contemporary dance also here, because we are pretty much, I think, sometimes blinded by this product making, each year new. And so I'm thankful that you also, because it's also motivating for me or others in another generation that have been already into some building up or research, to continue also, no? To have the not the outside, the formal, but also the inside, the motivation to give something eventually further, because I think this is sometimes also lacking, the feedback, the living exchange, the interest of something that has been gained, and which is also, we are still a Randerscheinung, marginal, a bit marginal sphere of expression. Yeah? So thank you for that, for this respect. And the second question, maybe I'm still on the research of my own masculinity. And this is a topic of myself, private and on stage, and as a projective image. So there's as you said before, I'm not working at, say, in gender topics. I would not maybe express now a theme like man, woman, and something. And I don't know. In my generation, when I come from in Austria, it was the same actually. But and still, the masculine image of the physical body, of the male is still sports, skiing, and football. And it didn't change much the last 100 years. In Austria, when you watch television, also when it's about dance, there's nothing. So actually, there, I think even in Poland, I've been a lot to Poland. Yeah, I found there's much more openness for male dancers to dance and study dance than still here.
Seriously.
Yeah, seriously. If you watch schools, there's like a very little amount of males, rather than maybe also from surrounding countries, which I appreciate. So I had this actually towards the male body and the approach of the male body to dance. I experienced much more in other countries than here, and also politically, and from the image and the cliche, and how the let's say starting from publicity on to politics and what is supported as a freelance activities and so on. The image is still very traditional in Austria. And many of us got choreographers also, no? There are not many dancers from Austria. So this is a good discussion, a good topic. And I think it was also, I don't know, it was worthwhile discussing it and exploring it. I have no clear question to that. What can we do as a practice? I'm making my practice for each body. Also for older bodies and even for people with different needs. And that's fascinating about the approach, a somatic approach, how to deal with different states of bodies behind gender.
Beyond gender.
Beyond gender, or behind in sense of who comes, which age, doesn't matter. Beyond gender, yes.
Yeah, this is something, I mean, just to finish up, but this is something that I feel like, because this is so important, like this is a really important topic to me, I find, after all these years still, but I have a feeling that I have like almost no right to speak about it, because I have the feeling that it always has to be full of gender topics, and you have to be...
Why?
I don't know why. I have the feeling. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely flawed.
There's also a doctrine.
Yeah.
At first, it was about other topics that were present, refugees.
Yeah, of course.
Beside all the things that are important politically, but in the art field, then it was about Asia. Then it was about, and then it's gender, and I think many people are also bored with it. Many art critics as well. So I don't feel, I could not also, do what you need to do.
Thank you, Georg, so much. Again, one more time, big respect to you.
Thank you for inviting me. Good luck to us.
Yeah, good luck to you very much, and I hope to see your new production when it's coming.
Yeah, next year.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.